Here we have an apparatus for testing Bernoulli's equation. First place, the apparatus comes apart. There are places where it comes apart because it's supposed to, places where it comes apart because it isn't. And let me explain the difference. Okay, this is the basic part of the apparatus. Okay, it consists, we might move it back a little bit, it consists of a vertical tube and a horizontal tube, and there's a small vertical tube coming out of the end of this. Now, this small vertical tube just came apart. That's because it's been flexed too many times. We'll insert that back in there. It's been hot glued in, and it fits fairly tightly, and that'll be sufficient for the experiment, although if it does come apart on you and you have some hot glue, it wouldn't hurt to re-glue it. Now, this thing shouldn't go in too deep, maybe to half the depth or half the width of the, maybe you can see it here, let's see, get myself in the way, maybe the camera will focus. You see that this thing inserts to about half the width of the tube down here. Now if this is pulled up into a vertical position, that's kind of where we want it. Now this tube has a considerable curvature to it, so I've taped a straight and rigid piece of pipe here, and I haven't supplied that. Hopefully you'll have something at home that's straight and rigid that you can rubber band the thing to the to the tube to more or less straighten out the tube, so it will go vertical, pretty much vertical, when this tube is horizontal. Now you're going to pour water into this end of the tube, and water is going to come out down here, and there should be no surprise in that. The question is, how high is the water going to rise in this tube? If you keep this tube all the way full, I estimate that water will probably come out of here and will probably rise quite high in this tube, maybe even come out the end, who knows. You can make your own predictions, you can figure these things out, or you can predict these things and then you can make your observations. Now there are two more tubes, okay, the smallest one and the next small one, and these things of course fit together so that we could hook up the whole apparatus like so. And you've got to be careful when you do this. Notice that I'm holding this thing, let's see if I can get it into the picture, holding this thing by the tube, not by the L, the plastic part, right? You can't see it. I'm not holding it by this plastic part, I'm holding it by the tube as I insert this other tube fairly tightly. It doesn't have to be rigid. As long as there isn't much water leaking at the joint here, it's not going to make a whole lot of difference in the experiment. Now, I'm going to hold the apparatus by this second tube and remove the last tube. This tube should be pretty much vertical. It wouldn't hurt to take a rubber band and put it around here. Hold this tube where it should be. I don't know if this is going to work. Yeah, it works fairly well. Okay. Now I've got three vertical tubes, and I'm going to be pouring water in here, observing the height of water in this tube, the height of water in this tube, in this tube, and this tube. First, you should predict what's going to happen. How's the height of water in this tube going to compare to the height of the water here, and the height of the water here, and the height of the water here as the water flows out? So one thing I can certainly do is measure those heights, or in some way observe the heights of the water. And of course the directions in the experiment will tell you more about that. I've also got the end of the tube coming at the end of the table at a horizontal. The end of this horizontal tube is nice and horizontal, so that I can measure the speed with which the water comes out of this tube by the time it takes the water to fall to the floor, by the distance, the horizontal range of the water as it goes to the floor, and by the vertical distance it falls. And of course that's mentioned in your instructions also. I could add the third tube and do a similar thing. So that's the way this works. And it's a very effective demonstration of Bernoulli's law, or Bernoulli's equation. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to demonstrate that here, just because I don't have the running water and other things that I really need to do the experiment without making a complete mess of it. I have those things, but not near the camera.